My name is Deborah. I'm 63 years old. 14 months ago, I was a divorced high school librarian in Toledo, Ohio, living in a rented condo I could barely afford, driving a used Hyundai Elantra with a check engine light I had been ignoring for 6 months. Today, I live in a 2-bedroom house with a garden in Hua Hin, Thailand. I have a pool 5 minutes from my front door. I eat out 3 times a day if I feel like it. My total monthly cost of living, everything included, is $1,500. And I mean this with a straight face, living like a queen. If any part of what I just said got your attention, hit subscribe. I put a new story like mine up every week from women my age who did what everybody told them was impossible. It costs you nothing and it helps another woman find this. Now, let me tell you how I got here. I want to start with who I was before, because I think it matters, and because a lot of the women my age I hear from tell me they cannot picture themselves doing what I did. So let me tell you, plainly, I could not have pictured it either. I grew up in a small town in northwest Ohio called Bryan. My dad managed a hardware store for 31 years. My mom was a bookkeeper at a local grain elevator. I had one brother, Kevin, 2 years older, who died of a car accident when I was 19, and he was 21. That is not the story of this video, but it shaped me, and I want to say it once, and then move on. Kevin was on his way home from a Bowling Green State University basketball game on a Saturday night in February of 1981. Icy road, Semi crossed the center line. Kevin was gone before the ambulance got there. My parents never fully recovered from it. Neither did I, for a long time. I went to Bowling Green anyway, 2 years after Kevin did not come home. I graduated with a library science degree in 1985. I got hired at Whitmer High School in the Toledo public school system in 1986 as an assistant librarian, and I stayed with that district for 34 years. I retired from a different Toledo high school, Bossier, in June of 2020. I was 59. I married a man named Craig in 1989. He was a middle school science teacher at first, then he got a master's and moved into administration. He was an assistant principal, then a principal, then a district administrator in Sylvania schools by the end. We were married for 29 years. We had one daughter, Jordan, born in 1992. Jordan lives in Portland, Oregon now, with her wife, Amelia, and their 2-year-old son, my grandson, whose name is Sam. Craig and I got divorced in 2018. I want to be honest about that, because it is the thing that started the whole shape of the last 6 years of my life. It was not a dramatic divorce. There was no other woman. There was no big betrayal. What there was 29 years of a marriage that had slowly become 2 people who lived in the same house and did not really know each other anymore. We sat at the kitchen table one Sunday morning in January of 2018, and Craig said, "Deb, I do not think we make each other happy anymore. I think we both know that." I sat there for a long time. Then I said, "Craig, I know that. I have known that for a long time. I did not know you knew." He said, "I have known for maybe 2 years." I said, "So have I." We were divorced by the end of the summer. Amicable. We sold the house in Sylvania, split what we had. My share of the divorce settlement, plus my portion of our retirement accounts, came to about $240,000. I moved into a rented condo in West Toledo because I did not want to commit to buying anything yet. Craig moved to Chicago, where his sister lived. We agreed to be civil for Jordan's sake, and we have been. He came to Sam's first birthday in Portland. So did I. We were fine. I retired in June of 2020. Bad timing. The pandemic had just hit. Schools were a mess. My last 3 months as a librarian were spent packaging up books for curbside pickup and zooming into student classes to talk about research skills. It was not the send-off I had imagined. There was no party. There was a Zoom retirement recognition where my colleagues said kind things into their webcams while I sat in my condo in yoga pants, trying not to cry. I turned off the camera when the tears started. Because that is not how a Toledo Public Schools librarian ends 34 years. I want to walk you through what my life looked like from June of 2020 to September of 2023, because it is the part that no one talks about. Not the divorce, not the retirement, the part after. The part where you have money in the bank and time on your hands, and no idea what to do with either. I had my Ohio State teacher's retirement system pension, about $3,200 a month. I had my Social Security kicking in at 62, which I took because I wanted the money then, about $1,900 a month. I had the $240,000 from the divorce still mostly intact because I had been living carefully. By any measure, I was fine, better than fine. On paper, I was doing better than most people my age. I was miserable. I want to be careful about that word, because I know women my age who have real problems, and mine were not those. I had my health, I had a daughter I adored and a grandson on the way. I had a pension. I was not lonely in the desperate sense. I had friends from the district I saw for coffee. I had a book club that met once a month at the Toledo Library. But I was miserable in a specific way that I think a lot of you know. I was miserable in the way where you get up in the morning and you do not know what the day is for, where you have a whole afternoon in front of you and you find yourself watching HGTV at 3 p.m. and hating yourself for it. Where every Sunday feels the same and every Wednesday feels the same, and the only thing that breaks it up is a doctor's appointment or a birthday card you have to send. I gained 22 pounds in 18 months. I drank a glass and a half of wine every night. Sometimes two. I stopped answering my daughter's calls on the first try because I did not want her to hear the flatness in my voice. I went to see a therapist in the spring of 2022, a woman named Renee. And after 6 sessions, she said something to me I have not forgotten. She said, "Deborah, you are not depressed in a clinical sense. You are bored. And bored at 61 in Toledo, Ohio, on a fixed income, is a legitimate crisis. It is not a small thing. It is going to eat you if you let it." I said, "Renee, what do I do about it?" She said, "You have to change something. Not everything. Something. But it has to be big enough that you feel it in your body when you do it." I sat with that for months. I did not know what she meant by big enough. I thought about moving to Portland to be near Jordan, but Jordan and Amelia were newlyweds trying for a baby, and I was not going to be the mother-in-law who moved into their neighborhood. I thought about buying a place in Florida. But I did not want to be a Florida woman. I thought about taking a cruise. I took a cruise. It did not help. I came home to the same condo and the same HGTV and the same wine. In July of 2023, my friend Karen, who had been a Spanish teacher at Whitmer for 25 years and who had retired the year before me, came over to my condo for dinner. Karen was 64, single, never married, no kids. She had just come back from a 3-week trip to Thailand. She was tan, she looked 10 years younger than I remembered her, and she talked about it for 2 hours. She told me she had gone alone. She told me she had stayed most of the time in a beach town on the Gulf of Thailand called Hua Hin. She told me she was seriously thinking about moving there permanently. She told me she had met 3 American women in their 60s and 70s who had done it. She told me about the food, about the massages, about the pool at her hotel that cost her the equivalent of $42 a night, about the beach, about a woman named Ploy who ran a laundry down the street from her hotel and who had asked Karen if she was okay because Karen was traveling alone and had asked Karen out to dinner with her family the next Sunday. I sat there at my kitchen table with my second glass of wine, and I listened to Karen talk. And I remembered what Renee had said. Big enough that you feel it in your body when you do it. I said, "Karen, would you go back with me?" Karen said, "Deb, are you serious?" I said, "Karen, I have not been serious about anything in 3 years. But yes, I am serious right now." She said, "When?" I said, "October, 2 months." She said, "Deborah, yes, let us go." I booked the ticket the next morning before I could talk myself out of it. Detroit to Bangkok to Hua Hin, October 14th, 3 weeks round trip, $1,340. Karen booked the same flight 2 hours later. I called Jordan that afternoon. I said, "Jordan, I am going to Thailand for 3 weeks with Karen in October." There was a pause. Then Jordan said, "Mom, that is amazing." I said, "You think so?" She said, "Mom, I have been worried about you for 2 years. Amelia and I have talked about it. You have been small on the phone. This is the first thing you have told me in a long time that made me feel like you are still in there. Yes. Go." I said to Jordan, "I might do more than go. I might look at whether I could live there." She said, "Mom, look at anything you want. I am not scared. You are not going to disappear. You raised me. You know how to answer a phone." I love my daughter. I told Craig 2 weeks later, mostly out of courtesy because we still talked about Jordan. He said, "Deb, good for you. If you like it, tell me. I have been thinking about doing something like that myself." I did not know that. I did not ask him more. It was not my business anymore. I flew out of Detroit on the 14th of October, 2023. 26 hours through Tokyo. Karen and I sat together for both legs. She was on her second Thailand trip. I was on my first international trip since a family vacation to Toronto in 1998. I want you to hear that. I was 62 years old, and I hadn't left the United States in 25 years. That is not unusual for American women my age. That is the norm, and it should not be. We landed in Bangkok at 11 at night local time. The humidity hit me the second I stepped out of the terminal. Karen laughed at me because I had a cardigan on. She said, "Deb, you will be taking that off in about 8 minutes." We stayed one night in Bangkok at an airport hotel and took a first-class bus down to Hua Hin the next morning. 3 hours, 240 baht each, about $7. The bus had reclining seats and air conditioning that actually worked. It was more comfortable than the Amtrak I took from Toledo to Chicago in 2019. Hua Hin. I want to describe it because I did not know what to expect. Hua Hin is a beach town on the west coast of the Gulf of Thailand, about 3 hours south of Bangkok. It was originally a fishing village. Then the Thai royal family built a summer palace there in the 1920s, and the town became a kind of quiet royal retreat. Now it is a mix of everything. There are 5-star resorts. There are Thai families who have summered there for generations. There is a huge and growing community of European retirees, mostly German, Swedish, and British. There are also a lot of Americans, more than I expected, and it has a small international airport, and it is close enough to Bangkok for weekend trips. The town itself is not overwhelming. The old part sits along the beach and up a couple of streets inland. There is a night market that runs 6 nights a week. There is a working fishing pier that still has boats coming in at 4 in the morning. There are 5 golf courses within a 15-minute drive. And the beach itself is long, flat, quiet, and mostly clean, with warm water that never drops below, about 78 degrees. Karen had booked us into a small hotel 2 blocks from the beach called the Palm Wing. It was owned by a Thai woman named Somsri, in her 50s, and her husband Anand. The hotel had 18 rooms and a small pool in the courtyard. Our rooms were on the 3rd floor, side by side, with balconies that looked out over palm trees. 1,200 baht a night, about $34. Karen said, "Deb, that includes breakfast." I said, "Karen, it should include breakfast for the year at that price." The first 3 days, I was jet-lagged and disoriented and hot in a way I had never been hot before. October in Hua Hin is the tail end of the rainy season. It was 90 degrees and 80% humidity most days. I sweated through every shirt I had brought. I drank water constantly. I napped in the afternoons because I could not do anything else. Karen was patient with me. She had done this before. She said, "Deb, your body needs a week. Do not fight it." By day 4, I was starting to see the place. I want to walk you through what I saw because it is what changed my mind about what my next 20 years could look like. I saw the Chachai market at 7 in the morning. Fresh fish still moving on ice. Mangoes piled higher than my head. Vegetables I did not recognize. Old women who had been running the same stalls for 30 years. A whole meal of Thai omelet over rice with a fresh coconut water for the equivalent of $2.10. I saw the Anantasila Hotel Spa, where a 1-hour Thai massage cost me 300 baht, $9. In Toledo, the same massage would have been 95 plus tip. I saw a 2-bedroom house with a small garden and a shared pool in a development called Palm Hills, 20 minutes inland from the beach. Rent, 25,000 baht a month, about $710, fully furnished, aircon in every room, a kitchen with an actual oven, which is not common in Thai kitchens, a community with about 40 other houses, half occupied by European retirees, half by younger Thai families. I saw Bangkok Hospital Hua Hin, a private hospital with a lobby that looked like a nice Marriott. I walked in as a walk-in on day 9 because I wanted to see. I told the receptionist I was visiting from America and I wanted a general checkup. She smiled and handed me a clipboard. 19 minutes later, I was in an exam room. A doctor named Dr. Pim, a woman in her 40s who had trained in Bangkok and done a fellowship in Boston of all places, sat with me for 32 minutes. She took my history. She asked about my weight, my wine consumption, which I was honest about, my mother's diabetes, my brother's death, and whether I had dealt with the grief. She ran basic blood work. She told me my numbers, told me my blood pressure was borderline and my cholesterol was high, told me I could probably fix both with lifestyle changes and did not push medication. The bill for the visit, the blood work, and 45 minutes of a specialist time was 2,200 baht. $63. I sat at the payment window and I stared at the receipt. In Toledo, my last full physical had been $680 after insurance, and that was with Medicare Advantage. I saw an English language book club that met every Wednesday at a coffee shop called Coffee Camp. 12 women, 6 American, 3 British, 2 Australian, 1 Swedish. Ages ranged from 58 to 78. Karen and I went as guests. They were reading a Jodi Picoult novel that month. 2 of the women had been in Hua Hin for over a decade. One of them, a Californian named Nancy, 71, had moved after her husband died. She had been in Hua Hin since 2014. I sat next to Nancy at that coffee shop and I asked her the question I'd been afraid to ask. I said, "Nancy, do you regret it?" She looked at me. She said, "Deborah, I have not been happier since I was 24. I saw Cicada Market on a Friday night, an artisan market on the edge of town where local Thai musicians played on a small stage, and where I bought a hand-painted silk scarf for the equivalent of $11 from a young woman who told me she had studied art at Chulalongkorn University in Bangkok and moved back to Hua Hin to be near her mother. I saw the pier at 4 in the morning because I could not sleep one night, and Karen and I walked down. Fishing boats coming in, men unloading squid and mackerel in the moonlight, a stall already open, selling coffee and pork rice porridge to the fishermen. We had a bowl, 40 baht. It was one of the best things I had ever eaten in my life. On day 14, I sat on the balcony of my hotel room at sunset with a glass of white wine that had cost me 140 baht at the 7-Eleven downstairs. Karen was in her room, the sun was going down behind the palm trees. I could hear the night market starting up 2 blocks over. Somebody was playing a Thai pop song on a scooter radio down below. I said out loud to nobody, "I could live here." I said it again. "I could live here." I sat with that for a long time. I flew home 3 weeks later. Karen and I did not talk much on the flight back. We were both processing. I want to tell you about the week after I got home, because it is where a lot of people give up on this kind of dream. You come home. The gray sky closes in. You walk back into your condo, and everything is the same. The vacation feeling wears off in about 4 days. And then you tell yourself it was a nice trip and you go back to HGTV. I did not do that. I want to tell you what I did instead. Day 1 home, I called Jordan. I told her the whole thing. She said, "Mom, do it." Day 2. I called my financial advisor, a man named Doug I had used for 15 years. I said, "Doug, I want you to run some numbers for me." I told him the plan. Sell the Toledo condo, which I owned outright by then, valued at about $180,000. Move to Thailand on a retirement visa. Live on about $1,500 a month. Bank the rest. Doug ran the numbers. He called me back 2 days later. He said, "Deborah, this works. This works well. If you rent in Thailand and put the condo proceeds into a moderate index fund, and you live on $1,500 a month, your pension and Social Security alone cover it with $3,000 a month left over. Your investment principal grows. You could be sitting on $500,000 by the time you are 75. I said, "Doug, are you sure?" He said, "Deborah, I am 90% sure. The other 10% is the exchange rate and whatever the world does. But if the exchange rate holds anywhere near where it is, yes, you are going to be fine." Day 5. I called Somsri at the Palm Wing. I asked her if she knew any long-term rental agents. She gave me 2 names. I emailed both. Day 9. I called Jordan back. I said, "Jordan, I am going to do it." Jordan cried on the phone. Happy crying. She said, "Mom, yes, 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 yes." I gave myself 6 months. I want to walk you through exactly what those 6 months looked like, because if you're sitting in a condo somewhere in Ohio or Indiana or Michigan, and you are wondering if a woman your age can actually pull this off, I want you to see the practical shape of it. Month 1, November of 2023. I put the condo on the market. My realtor was a woman named Trish, who I had used to buy the place back in 2018. She came over on a Monday morning. She walked through the condo. She said, "Deborah, where are you going?" I said, "Trish, Thailand." She stopped in the middle of the living room. She looked at me. Then she said, "Deborah, I have 3 clients this year who have asked me to sell their places because they are moving abroad. Portugal, Costa Rica, now Thailand. This is a thing that is happening. You are not crazy." I said, "Trish, I did not think I was crazy, but it is nice to hear." She priced the condo at $192,000. It sold in 18 days for $186,000. Cash offer from a young couple with a baby who were moving up from an apartment in East Toledo. I walked away after everything with $179,000. Month 2, December. I did the visa work. Thailand has a retirement visa called the non-immigrant OA. You have to be 50 and over. You have to prove either 800,000 baht in a Thai bank, about $22,500, or a monthly income of 65,000 baht, about $1,830, or a combination. My pension alone qualified me on income. I used a visa agent based in Bangkok that Karen had used. Her name was Kun Nan. She handled the paperwork on the Thai side. My part was getting an FBI background check, a medical certificate, and proof of income. The whole visa process cost me about $1,200, including her fee. It took 8 weeks. Month 3, January. I got rid of things. I want to describe this part because it is the part that made everything else real. 34 years of teaching, 29 years of marriage, 63 years of a life in Ohio. Boxed up, sorted, donated, sold. I made an Excel spreadsheet because I am still a librarian at heart. Every category, every item over $100. What it was worth, what I was doing with it. I kept 2 suitcases of clothes, mostly things I could wear in a hot climate. I kept photos, my mother's wedding ring, my father's watch, a small box of letters Kevin had written me from college in 1979 and 1980 that I had never been able to throw away. I kept a small painting a student had given me in 2003 that had been on the wall of every library I had worked in. That was it. I gave the rest away. My couch went to a young teacher at Bossier who had just gotten her first apartment. My dining room set went to Karen. My books, 3,000 of them accumulated over a lifetime, went to the Toledo Library book sale in 3 separate trips. I sold my Hyundai for $4,200 to a mechanic who fixed the check engine light himself. Jordan and Amelia flew out from Portland for the last weekend before I flew. Sam was 14 months old. Amelia's mother, Linda, flew in from Denver, too. It was the first time the 4 of us had been in one room together since Sam's baptism. We ate takeout from a Thai restaurant in Sylvania that had been my favorite for 20 years. Sam ate a spring roll. Amelia cried when she saw me lift him up. Jordan cried when I gave her the box with my mother's wedding ring in it. I said, "Jordan, I want you to have it. Mom would have wanted you to have it." Jordan said, "Mom, are you going to be okay?" I said, "Sweetheart, I am going to be more okay than I have been in 5 years." She said, "Mom, call me every Sunday." I said, "Jordan, every single Sunday." Month 4, February. I flew. Detroit to Tokyo to Bangkok on the 17th of February, 2024. Karen came with me, but only for the first 2 weeks. She was still deciding whether to move herself. She wanted to help me get set up. She said she would go back to Toledo in March and make her decision then. We landed in Bangkok at 11 at night. Same humidity, same wall of warm air. But this time, I did not have a cardigan on. This time, I walked out of the terminal in a linen shirt and cotton pants, and I was ready. We took the bus down to Hua Hin the next morning. Same 3 hours, same reclining seats. But this time, when the bus pulled into the Hua Hin bus terminal, I was not a visitor. I was a woman who had come home to a home she had not lived in yet. Somsri met us at the Palm Wing. She hugged me at the door. She said, "Miss Deborah, you came back." I said, "Somsri, I told you I would." She said, "Yes, but everybody says that." I stayed at the Palm Wing for the first 3 weeks while I got set up. Karen stayed too. The rental agent Somsri had recommended, a Thai woman in her 40s, named Kun B, showed me 11 properties in the first week. 3 were too expensive, 2 were too far from town. 3 were tourist rentals that jacked prices up in high season. 2 were fine, but not right. And then, on the 8th property, we found it. It was a 2-bedroom detached house in a small community called Palm Hills, about 12 minutes inland from the beach by scooter. Not the fancy Palm Hills golf community. A smaller one, less well known, called Palm Hills Village. 22 houses arranged around a shared pool and a small clubhouse. Mostly older European retirees, plus a few Thai families. Fully furnished, kitchen with an oven, which is not common. Aircon in every room. A little walled garden with 2 mango trees and a small papaya tree that produced more fruit than I could eat by myself. Rent, 22,000 baht a month, $620. Water included, Wi-Fi included, pool maintenance included. I would pay my own electric, which the landlord said would run about 2,000 baht a month with normal aircon use, about $56. The landlord was a young Thai man named Kun Ton, 31, who had inherited the property from his father the year before. He lived in Bangkok and worked in tech. He met me at the house with the keys. He said, "Miss Deborah, my father would have liked you. He liked serious women. Do you have any questions?" I said, "Kun Ton, just one. What happens if something breaks?" He said, "Miss Deborah, you call me. I have a maintenance man in the village named Kun Somchai. He will come within 1 hour. If it is bigger, I fly down from Bangkok. That has happened once in 5 years." I signed a 6-month lease at first because Karen had warned me not to sign anything longer for the first house. He accepted a 2-month deposit and 1 month rent up front. Total, 66,000 baht, about $1,860 out of the money I had wired to my new Bangkok bank account. He handed me the keys. He said, "Welcome home, Miss Deborah. I want to walk you through the numbers of my first 6 months in Hua Hin because I promised you I would show you what 1,500 a month actually looks like." Rent, 22,000 baht, $620. Electric, running the aircon at night and a fan during the day, about 2,200 baht, $62. Water, Wi-Fi, and pool maintenance included in the rent. Thai SIM card with unlimited data, 300 baht, $8.50. Groceries at the Chachai market twice a week and at Tesco Lotus for the things I could not get at the market, about 6,000 baht for the month, $170. Eating out, which I did 4 or 5 times a week, mostly at small Thai places and once a week at a nicer international restaurant, about 7,000 baht, $200. Transportation. I bought a scooter in my 3rd week. A Honda Click, 3 years old, 20,000 kilometers. 26,000 baht, about $735. Gas ran me about 400 baht a month, $12. I take taxis or the local Songthao, the covered pickup that runs like a shared cab, maybe 6 times a month, another 800 baht, $23. Health insurance with Pacific Cross, an international plan that would cover me for anything short of the very biggest catastrophic events, about 70,000 baht a year, which came out to just under $165 a month. Massages, and I want to include this because it is a real part of my life now. Twice a week at 300 baht each, so 2,400 baht a month, about $68. Coffee shop coffee, 5 or 6 times a week, about 1,500 baht, $42. Miscellaneous, haircuts, laundry, which I do at a small place run by a woman named Auntie Ploy for the equivalent of about $8 a week. Sunscreen, books, occasional weekend trips, about 2,000 baht, $56. Add it all up, approximately 52,000 baht a month. At the exchange rate when I am telling this story, that is $1,460. I have some months where I go over. Last month, I bought a new mattress because the one that came with the house was too soft. That was 15,000 baht extra, $420. Some months I go under, 1,300 easy. Average across 14 months, $1,511. My income from my pension and Social Security combined is a little over $5,000 a month after Medicare deductions. I am banking $3,500 a month. I have been banking it since March of 2024. That is over $40,000 a year that I did not have before. On top of the $179,000 from the condo sale, which is sitting in a moderate index fund that Doug set up for me and has grown 11% since I put it in. I am 63 years old, and I have more money coming in every month than I know what to do with. I want you to sit with that sentence. Not because I am bragging, because there are millions of women in this country in my situation who do not know this is possible. Nobody at the AARP magazine is writing about it. Nobody at the retirement seminars in the hotel conference rooms in Toledo is talking about it. Nobody at your church. Nobody at your book club. I did not know it was possible until Karen sat at my kitchen table in July of 2023 and told me. And now I am telling you. I want to tell you about the shape of my life now, because the money is only the frame. The picture inside the frame is what I actually want you to see. I get up at 6 every morning. Not because I have to, because the light comes up over the mango tree in my garden, and my body wants to see it. I make coffee. Real coffee from beans I buy at a small roaster in town called Velo Cafe, which is run by a young Thai couple named Ploy and Eka, who left Bangkok 2 years ago because they wanted a slower life. I sit on my little back patio and I drink it in silence for the first 30 minutes of the day. That has become my whole religion. At 7, I put on a swimsuit and I walk to the pool. In 14 months, I have gone to that pool 5 mornings a week, almost without exception. I swim slow laps for 30 minutes. I do not push. I am 63 and I am not training for anything. I swim to move my body and to feel the water and to be somewhere in the morning that is not a bed I am dreading getting out of. I've lost 17 pounds since I moved. Not because I tried. Because I stopped drinking a bottle of wine every night, and I started moving my body every morning in a country that is warm enough to make moving feel good. At 8, I walked to a coffee shop 2 blocks from my house called Espresso Bar Hua Hin. The owner is a man in his 50s named Kun Boon, who used to be an engineer at a Toyota plant outside Bangkok and retired 10 years ago to open a coffee shop. He speaks careful English. He has learned my order. Iced Americano and a piece of banana bread. 140 baht, about $4. He nods when I come in and hands it to me before I sit down. We have talked about American politics twice. The Thai royal family, never. His daughter's wedding, once. He is not a friend exactly. He is a person in my day who is glad to see me. That is a specific and important thing that I did not have in Toledo. At 9, I walk back to the house. I read for an hour or 2. I have gone through more books in 14 months than I did in the 10 years before I moved. I have my Kindle. I have the English language section of the Bookazine store on Pechkasem Road. I have the free library at the Palm Hills Clubhouse where people leave books they have finished. I read novels, biographies, history. I read a lot of women my age writing about their own reinventions, which I did not think existed as a genre until I moved abroad and started looking for it. I have made friends. This is the part that would have surprised me most a year ago. And it is the part I want you to hear if you are single and 60 and worried about being alone. The Wednesday book club at Coffee Camp is now my book club. I am a full member. 12 women plus me. We have added 2 members since I joined. One is a British woman named Beatrice, 67, a retired midwife from Bristol, who moved to Hua Hin last April. The other is an American named Susan, 72, a retired accountant from Sacramento who moved in September. Both women moved alone. Both are thriving. We have coffee. We argue about books. We have taken 2 weekend trips together as a group. One to a beach town further south called Prachuap Khiri Khan. One to Bangkok for the theater. I paid for my share of each. Nobody counts. We are grown women. Nancy, the 71-year-old from California I met on my scouting trip, has become one of my closest friends. She lives 10 minutes from me by scooter. She's been in Hua Hin since 2014. She lost her husband to a heart attack in 2013. She moved because she said Sacramento had become a museum of a marriage she had already left. That is her phrase. I have used it more than once about Toledo. Nancy and I have dinner together twice a week. Sometimes at her place, which is a small house near the beach. sometimes at mine. Sometimes at a Thai restaurant we both like called Bantalay. We do not talk about our late husbands or ex-husbands very much. We talk about our kids, about books, about the fact that neither of us has to pretend anymore. That is the biggest gift of my life at 63. I do not have to pretend anymore. I have met men. I want to say that because I know women my age hear these stories and wonder about it, and I'm not going to hide it. There is an American man named Larry, 68, retired mechanical engineer from Denver, widower for 6 years, who lives in a house about a mile from me. We had dinner 3 times last summer. He is a decent man. He was not for me. There was no chemistry. I told him so plainly, and he thanked me for being direct. We are still friends. We wave at each other at Bookazine. There is also a Thai widower who runs a small nursery on the road out to Chiam, 66, named Kun Sathorn, who I have had coffee with 4 times and who I am not sure yet what to do about. He is a kind man with an easy laugh who lost his wife to cancer in 2019 and who grows the most beautiful orchids I have ever seen. I have bought 3 of his plants. I do not know if there is anything there. I am not in a rush to know. That is another gift of 63, not being in a rush. Jordan and Amelia and Sam came in September of last year. 2 weeks. Sam was 2.5 by then. He is a full person now with opinions and a favorite stuffed elephant named Bumbo. Jordan looked at my house on the first day, and she stood in the middle of my living room and she cried. Not sad crying, the other kind. She said, "Mom, this is you." I said, "Sweetheart, what do you mean?" She said, "This is you. The way you decorated it. The books, the little painting from your student, the photos on the fridge. Mom, this is you. I have not seen you like this since I was a kid." I stood there in my own living room in Thailand, and I understood something I had not put words to before. In Toledo, I had been living in rooms that had been half decorated for a marriage that had ended. In Thailand, everything in my house was mine. Everything I looked at was something I had chosen. That does something to you. Being surrounded by only your own choices. Amelia and Jordan went home after 2 weeks. Sam had learned to say Sawadee Ka, the Thai greeting for girls, and he still says it to me on our weekly video call. He waves at his own reflection in Jordan's laptop camera, and he says, "Sawadee Ka, Grammy." Then he laughs like it is the funniest joke ever told. I want to tell you about a moment last November, because it is the moment I understood I was not going back. I had the flu, not COVID, just the flu. I was in bed for 4 days. Nancy came over on day 2 and brought me chicken rice soup she had bought from a place she knew called Guai Tiu Ruea Che, which serves boat noodles the old way. She let herself in with the spare key I had given her. She brought me the soup and a bottle of electrolyte water, and she sat on the edge of my bed for 20 minutes, and she asked me if I needed anything else. I said, "Nancy, I am fine. Go home." She said, "Deborah, if you need anything, you call me. I am 10 minutes away." She left. On day 3, I felt worse, and I called a doctor. Not Bangkok Hospital, a small clinic in town called San Paulo Clinic. I called them and I described my symptoms. The receptionist said in careful English, "Miss Deborah, would you like the doctor to come to your house?" I said, "Excuse me." She said, "The doctor can come to your house. It costs an extra 500 baht. Dr. Prowett is free this afternoon." Dr. Prowett came to my house at 3 o'clock that afternoon. He examined me on my couch. He took my temperature and my pulse and listened to my lungs. He prescribed me 2 things, and he called in the prescription to a pharmacy in town that delivered. He was in my house for 22 minutes. The bill for the visit, plus the prescription, plus the delivery, was 1,400 baht. $40. I lay on my couch that afternoon after he left. dosed up on medication that would have been $300 in Toledo. And I thought about the last time I had had the flu. December of 2019. I had lived alone in the condo. I had lain in bed for 5 days. I had not called anybody because everybody was busy with their own lives. I had walked to the CVS on the 3rd day to get medicine, and the walk had made me feel worse. I had eaten cereal for 4 straight days because I did not have the energy to cook. Nobody had brought me soup. Nobody had come over. Nobody had called to check on me. I lay on my couch in Hua Hin with the flu, and I thought about that December in Toledo. And I understood. This is what a life looks like when you are not just surviving. I want to tell you about the money one more time before we close the section, because I know some of you are still doing the math in your heads. 14 months in, my monthly cost is $1,511 average. My income is a little over $5,000 a month. I am saving about $3,500 a month. I have added $49,000 to my savings in 14 months, on top of the $179,000 from the condo. That savings pot is now worth almost $240,000 because the index fund has kept growing. At this rate, when I am 70, I will have close to $400,000 in liquid savings. Plus, my house money is invested. Plus, my pension keeps coming. Plus, my Social Security. I will be more financially comfortable at 70 than I have ever been in my life. Not because I got lucky, because I moved to a country where the numbers actually work for a woman my age. Jordan asked me on our call last Sunday whether I would leave her some of it. I said, "Jordan, sweetheart, all of it that is left. And there is going to be a lot of it left." She said, "Mom, I do not want your money. I want you to spend it. Come see Sam more. Travel. Live." I said, "Jordan, I am living, and I will do all of that, and there is still going to be a lot of it left, because in Hua Hin, a woman my age cannot outspend her income even if she tries." Jordan laughed. Then she said quietly, "Mom, I am glad you found this." I said, "Me too, sweetheart. Me too." I want to be honest about the hard things now, because if I only told you the good parts of this story, I would be doing you a disservice. And I promised myself when I sat down to record this that I would not be one of those YouTube women who makes it look like paradise. Hua Hin is not paradise. It is a real place with real problems, and I want to walk you through them so you can decide with your eyes open. The heat. I will start here because it is the one nobody tells you enough about. From March through May, Hua Hin is genuinely hot. Not Ohio summer hot, not Arizona summer hot. A different kind of hot. 95 degrees with 85% humidity for 8 weeks straight. There are days in April when I do not leave the house between 11 in the morning and 4 in the afternoon, not because I cannot, but because I choose not to. The aircon runs, the fan runs, I read, I nap. I do errands early in the morning and after sunset. If you are a woman who cannot handle heat, if hot flashes have made you sensitive, this is going to be harder than you think. I want you to know that up front. The language. My Thai is bad. I have been here 14 months and I can say maybe 40 words and phrases. I try. I have a language app. I sit with it 4 days a week for 20 minutes. It goes in slowly. And I want to say plainly that not speaking the language of the country you live in is a specific kind of humbling. There are moments every week when I cannot fully communicate what I need. When I have to point at things at the market. When I get on the wrong songthaew because I misread a sign. When I sit at a family dinner Nancy has been invited to, and I understand maybe 1 word in 10 of what is happening around me. I have made peace with it, but it is not nothing. The bureaucracy. Thai bureaucracy is patient in a way that will drive an American woman crazy at first. Everything takes 3 visits. The visa renewal took me a full day at the immigration office in Prachuap Khiri Khan last February. The bank paperwork to open my Bangkok bank account took 2 days across 2 branches. The paperwork to buy the scooter and register it took 3 trips to the district office. Every visit requires photocopies of your passport, your visa, your address confirmation, and often 2 more things you did not think you would need. You bring extra photocopies of everything, always. You bring a book. You bring water. You wait. The distance from Jordan and Sam. I want to be careful about this because I said in the last section that I have made peace with it, and I have, but I want to say the hard version too. There is a specific ache to being 26 hours of flying away from a 2.5-year-old grandson. He is at an age where he changes every 8 weeks. Between one visit and the next, he becomes a slightly different person. Amelia sends me video updates twice a week, and Jordan and I video call every Sunday. And it is not the same as being able to drive over on a Saturday afternoon. If you have very young grandchildren and you cannot afford to fly back multiple times a year, you need to think hard about this piece. It is real and it does not go away. The missing things. There are American things I miss. Not enough to go back, but real. A proper Thanksgiving dinner. A crisp fall day in October at a farmer's market. A specific brand of dark chocolate my mother used to buy me. My hairdresser Debbie in Sylvania, who cut my hair for 22 years and knew exactly what to do with the double crown at the back of my head. Being able to read every sign I walk past. The blue of Lake Erie in September. These things do not haunt me, but I feel them, the women who do not make it. I want to talk about this because it is the part of the expat story nobody wants to admit. I have watched 3 American women arrive in Hua Hin in the last 14 months and go home within 6 months. Not for family emergencies, because they could not settle. 2 of them, I want to be plain, were miserable in America before they came, and they thought geography would fix what was actually a deeper unhappiness they carried with them. Geography does not fix that. Hua Hin is a good place to build a life. It is not a good place to run from yourself. If you are watching this and you are thinking about doing what I did, please do the honest inventory first. If you are miserable in Ohio because Ohio is your problem, Thailand might help. If you are miserable in Ohio because you are your problem, Thailand will not help, and you will spend $40,000 finding that out. The relationship weirdness. There is a specific pattern with older American men in this town that I have to mention because I have met a lot of them. Older American men in Hua Hin sometimes have relationships with Thai women, 30 and 40 years younger than they are. I am not going to judge that broadly because relationships are complicated and adults can make their own choices. But I have watched it play out badly enough times that I want to name it. If you are a woman my age considering coming here alone, you should know that a certain percentage of the older Western men you meet are not interested in a relationship with an American woman your age. They are here because they want a different arrangement. That is real. It is not everyone, but it is enough that you should know before you get here. Those are the hard things. I want you to hear them because I promised. Now, I want to tell you about a moment from 3 weeks ago that I keep thinking about because it captures what changed inside me that I could not have predicted. I was walking home from the Chat Chai market on a Wednesday morning. It was already 88 degrees. I had a bag of mangoes and a bag of vegetables, and I was walking slow the way you walk in that heat. I stopped at a small pharmacy on Pechkasam Road because I had run out of ibuprofen. The pharmacist was a woman about my age named Kun Suda, who I had been to 3 times before and who had learned my name. She looked at me across the counter and she said, "Miss Deborah, you look tired today. Are you okay?" I said, "Kun Suda, I am fine. Just the heat." She said, "Miss Deborah, sit down for a minute. I will bring you water." She brought me a small bottle of cold water from a fridge behind the counter. She sat down on a plastic stool next to me. She did not go back to work. She sat with me for about 6 minutes while I drank the water and cooled down. Then she said, "Miss Deborah, I want to ask you something. I said, yes. She said, you live here alone? Yes. I said, yes. She said, you are happy? I said, yes. I am. She said, good. Some ladies who come here, they are not happy. You are happy. I can see. I said, Kun Suda. Thank you. She said, you are welcome, Miss Deborah. If you ever need help, you come to me. I have 3 daughters. I know how to help. I paid for the ibuprofen. I walked out of that pharmacy into the 90-degree morning, and I stood on the sidewalk for a minute with a bag of mangoes in one hand and a bag of vegetables in the other, and I did not cry, but I felt something in my throat that was close to it. Nobody had asked me if I was happy in Toledo for 6 years. Nobody. Not my hairdresser, not my dentist, not the pharmacist at the CVS on Sylvania Avenue where I had bought prescriptions for 8 years, not the librarian at my own local branch, not the barista at the Starbucks I went to 3 mornings a week. Nobody had ever said the words. And here, a woman I had bought ibuprofen from 3 times had sat with me for 6 minutes and asked. I walked home slow that morning. I put the mangoes in the fridge. I sat down on my back patio in the shade with a glass of ice water, and I said out loud to nobody, Deborah, you are okay? You are more than okay. I want to say the last thing before we close this section, because it matters. I have not had a glass of wine in 8 months. I did not plan it. I did not go to a meeting. I did not join a program. I want to be careful because if you are somebody who needs those things, you should have them. And I am not saying my way is the only way, but I want to tell you what happened. 2 things happened at once. The first is that the wine I could get here was not very good, and it was expensive because it is imported. A decent bottle of Chardonnay at the 7-Eleven is about the equivalent of $11, which is nothing in America, but is 9 times what I pay for a full Thai dinner. So the math of drinking a bottle a night stopped making sense to me. That was the small reason. The bigger reason is that I stopped needing it. In Toledo, the wine had been how I got through the evening. Here, the evening is not a thing I need to get through. The evening is a thing I look forward to. It is sunset over the mango tree. It is Nancy coming over for dinner. It is a book on the patio. It is a video call with Sam. I do not need to chemically soften the edges of it because the edges of it are not sharp anymore. I mentioned this to Nancy last month over dinner. I said, Nancy, I have not had a glass of wine in 8 months. I did not plan it. She said, Deborah, I stopped drinking 2 years after I moved here. Same reason. Nothing to soften. She was quiet for a minute. Then she said, that is what this place is. It is a place that does not need to be softened. I want to close this by telling you what a full week looks like now, so you can picture it. Not the highlights, the whole week. Because I know how many of you are sitting somewhere in America imagining what your own version might be. And I want you to see the shape of it clearly. Monday, I get up at 6, coffee on the patio, swim at 7, coffee at Kuhn Boone's shop at 8, errands in town on the scooter. This past Monday, I paid my electric bill in person at the 7-Eleven, which is how you do it here, and it was 1,940 baht, about $55. I stopped at the market and bought papaya, pineapple, and a whole grilled chicken for 80 baht. I came home and ate lunch on the patio. I read for 2 hours. I had a video call with Jordan at 3 in the afternoon my time, which is 1 in the morning her time on Sundays, which is our weekly call. Sam had drawn a picture of a mango tree with 3 lizards on it that he wanted to show me. He held it up to the camera for so long that Jordan had to pry it out of his hands. In the evening, I walked to Nancy's for dinner. She had made a chicken curry. We ate on her small terrace. I walked home at 9. Tuesday, swim. Coffee. Wednesday book club prep, because I was leading discussion on Barbara Kingsolver's Demon Copperhead. I read for 4 hours. I had a late lunch at a small place on Narrasdamry Road called Jack Peak that serves the best cow mangai, chicken and rice in the city for 45 baht. I napped in the afternoon. I called my brother's widow Diane in Bryan, Ohio, which I do about once a month. She is 70 now, and she still puts flowers on Kevin's grave on the anniversary in February, and I want her to know, I know she does that. She told me a long story about the new pastor at her church, and I listened. Wednesday. Swim. Book club at coffee camp at 10. We discussed Demon Copperhead for 2 hours. 3 of us cried at different points. Beatrice from Bristol made me laugh so hard I choked on my iced coffee, describing a scene from her nursing career in 1979. After book club, Nancy and Susan and I went to a Thai place around the corner for lunch. I paid for my own meal, 180 baht, about $5. I came home. I read on the patio. In the evening, I did a Thai lesson on the app, 20 minutes, and I put together a grocery list for Thursday. Thursday, swim, coffee, big market run. Sundays are the small daily market, and Thursdays are the big one where I stock up. I bought fish, chicken, vegetables, fruit, rice. I spent about 600 baht, $17. It kept me in food for 6 days easy. I stopped at Auntie Ploy's laundry on the way home to pick up my clothes, 120 baht. In the afternoon, I had my Thursday massage. 300 baht for 1 hour with a woman named Kun Prey, who has been massaging me every Thursday afternoon for a year. She knows every knot in my back. In the evening, I made dinner at home and read. Friday, swim, coffee. I took the scooter down to the beach for the first time in 3 weeks. I do not go to the beach as often as you would think because I live inland, but on Fridays I sometimes go. I sat on a lounger at a small beach club called Sasi, drank an iced coffee, read for 2 hours. The lounger cost me 100 baht, $3. In the afternoon, I came home and napped. In the evening, I went with Nancy and Beatrice to the Cicada night market. We ate street food. I bought a small painted fan from an art student for 80 baht. We came home at 10. Saturday, swim, coffee. I did nothing on Saturday morning on purpose. I read. I sat on the patio. I watched a bird I did not recognize eat a piece of papaya I had left on the wall. In the afternoon, I took the scooter out to a small nursery on the Cha Am Road because I wanted a new orchid. Kun Sathorn was there. He picked out a plant for me and would not let me pay full price. We had a Thai iced tea together at a small table in his greenhouse. I stayed 45 minutes. He asked me if I wanted to have dinner with him sometime, plainly, not pushily. I said yes. We are having dinner next Wednesday. I do not know what will come of that. I am not in a rush. Sunday, swim, coffee, video call with Jordan and Amelia and Sam, which is our real weekly touch point. Sam sang me a song he had learned at daycare. Jordan showed me a bookcase Amelia had built. Amelia showed me the tomato plants in their backyard. We were on for 40 minutes. In the afternoon, I read. In the evening, Nancy came over and I made dinner. Grilled fish, mango salad, coconut rice. We watched the sun go down over the mango tree in my garden. We did not talk much. We did not need to. That is a week. That is 52 of those a year, more or less, with variation. Some weeks I travel. Some weeks I have a friend visit. Some weeks I fly to Portland and see Sam. Most weeks are close to the shape of this one. I want to say the last things. If you are watching this and you are a woman my age or close to it, and you have been sitting in a condo somewhere in the Midwest or the South or the East Coast, wondering if this is the whole rest of your life, I want to speak to you specifically. Not to the people who are just curious about Thailand. To you. I know what you are doing right now. I know because I did it. You are watching HGTV in the middle of the afternoon. You are having a glass of wine at 4. You are answering the phone with your daughter's ringtone and putting your voice on to make sure you sound okay. You are looking at your bank account and telling yourself the numbers are fine. even though the shape of every day is small and quiet and the same. You are telling yourself that at your age, this is what a life looks like. That maybe you are supposed to just settle into this and be grateful for what you have. I want you to hear me. At 63, this is not what a life has to look like. There are options nobody has told you about because nobody in your neighborhood has done them yet. Nobody at your dentist has done them. Nobody at your book club has done them. Nobody in your family has done them. That does not mean they are not real. It means you are early. You are allowed to leave. That is the sentence I want you to sit with for a minute if you have never sat with it before. You are allowed to leave. At 58, at 63, at 71. You are allowed to sell what you have and get on a plane and see what the rest of your life could look like, somewhere the numbers actually work and where the pharmacist asks if you are happy. You will not do it alone. I did not. Karen sat at my kitchen table in July of 2023. Jordan told me to go. Doug ran my numbers. Somsri hugged me at the door of the Palm Wing. Nancy became my friend on my scouting trip. Kuntan rented me a house because he liked the look of me. That is not luck. That is what happens when you go somewhere and you show up properly. I want to mention one thing before I sign off. There is a book called The Honest Move that walks through the real numbers on doing what I did. Cities compared side by side. The visa systems in Thailand, Portugal, the Philippines, Mexico, Ecuador, Malaysia. How the healthcare actually works. The traps that catch people in the first year abroad, including the exact kind of mistake I almost made with a rental agent I did not know well enough. I did not have it. I put it together the hard way through Karen and through Doug and through late nights on expat forums. If you are seriously thinking about a move like this, it will save you months of stumbling. There is a link in the description. No pressure. I just wish somebody had handed it to me in my Toledo condo. If this story meant something to you, if it reached you where you are sitting right now with your afternoon wine and your quiet condo and your HGTV, I would appreciate it if you would hit the like button and subscribe. I put stories like mine up every week from women who did what we were told was impossible. My name is Deborah. I am 63 years old. I was a high school librarian in Toledo, Ohio, for 34 years. My husband and I split up in 2018 after 29 years because we had become polite strangers. I retired in June of 2020 in the middle of the pandemic. I sat in a rented condo for 3 years, watching HGTV and drinking too much wine and gaining 22 pounds. My friend Karen came home from Thailand in July of 2023 and told me about a place called Hua Hin. I flew there with her in October. I moved there in February of 2024 with 2 suitcases and a non-immigrant OA visa. I live in a 2-bedroom house with a garden. I have a pool 5 minutes away. I swim every morning. I have a book club. I have a friend named Nancy. I might have a dinner next Wednesday with a Thai widower who grows orchids. My grandson calls me Grammy and says Sawadee Ka on our Sunday video calls. My total monthly cost of living is $1,500. I bank $3,500 a month. I am living like a queen, not because I'm rich, because a woman my age with a modest pension and a paid-off condo can live better in Hua Hin than she can live in most of America, and nobody in America is telling us this. I am telling you now. Thank you for listening. Take care of yourself. I will see you next week.